Human smugglers are moving from the shadows and into the open, at least when it comes to advertising what they do. Radio Canada reports there are smuggling networks with thousands of social media followers, especially on TikTok. These networks promise to bring Indian nationals into the United States through Quebec, Ontario, and British Columbia. Since January, 13,000 people have been arrested after crossing into the U.S. from Canada, mostly out of Quebec. The majority of people are from India or Bangladesh and were living in Canada with a student or work visa. For more on this, we're joined by Mohit Rajhans, a writer and media expert joining us from Toronto. Mohit is also a media consultant with thinkstart.ca. Mohit, thanks so much for making time today.
My pleasure.
So I hear about this from our colleagues at Radio Canada, the fact that this advertising is happening on TikTok, these offers to help people cross from Canada into the U.S. for a cost, of course. And it just made me wonder, how is this possible? How is it possible that they could so boldly put these offers out on social media?
Well, what we're seeing is that TikTok, like most big social media apps, are really a connection point for cultures, for people who are looking for much more than just a viral video or a trend. See, TikTok being in the top 10 in Canada right now is used by a generation for more than just entertainment. And this connection point is starting to become volatile for many people, as you're starting to point out, because communities are being built around nefarious offers and the promise of certain things that are obviously illegal.
Now, the team at Radio Canada was, combing through various posts and whatnot. Is law enforcement doing that? Are they trying to wade through, I mean, my goodness, a lot of content on a social media site like TikTok, but to find elements like this?
Let's hope so. I think what we're referring to right now is the fact that we can be involved in surveillance culture if it means that we're protecting what's right. I think there are three elements that are really problematic here. On one hand, we need a little bit more of a campaign to the certain communities to show that this is not the right way to be doing some of this and crossing the border, and there's no legal way, even though they might be promised through some of the TikTok operations, there's no legal way that this is happening, and also that it's very dangerous. We also need to hold some of these social media apps accountable with fines, the same way that is being done in Europe right now, so that it's not just about moderation and taking these accounts down, it's actually holding them accountable with tangible money, knowing that it's actually apprehensible that they're not able to catch and crack down on some of these crimes as well.
Yeah, it is interesting because if you were to be monitoring for this type of activity, I mean, it's not the same as threats of violence or, maybe those kind of key words that law enforcement might be looking for, or that the site itself might be looking for. Any sort of social media site would be trying to hopefully control that kind of content, violent content. This does seem a bit different, like it would fall into outside of those categories. But it is interesting, that idea of holding these companies accountable, and you have seen pushes to do so for various other things, the safety standards for youth when it comes to Meta's platforms and whatnot. But a company like TikTok, is there an added challenge with TikTok itself when it comes to holding it accountable?
Well, I just think what we're talking about is whatever's popular amongst the generation. So holding TikTok accountable simply means this. You can moderate all you want, but the next social media app is going to do the same sort of thing to attract the same sort of business. We have to understand, from Telegram to WhatsApp to TikTok to Instagram, these are sophisticated networks that are being run on common social media apps that without the proper digital media literacy and conversations like this, they're going to continue to happen. Look, even if you and I were to continue this conversation and try to put a link about this conversation on something like Facebook, no one would be able to see it because of the blocking right now. We are in a situation, unfortunately, where we can't have these conversations in a silo. We have to continue to speak to these generations and these communities about what's wrong about this messaging, and at the same time go to these social media apps and hold them accountable.
Yeah, that's a good point about the news ban when it comes to Meta properties in response to the Online News Act. What can people do if they come across a video like this? Is there something that, you know, the user of TikTok could do to try to report something that they think is, you know, pushing illegal activity?
You know, it really scares me, to be honest with you. I also think about, you know, what can your advertiser do? What if, you know, the algorithm of TikTok is actually its secret sauce. And it's really tough to be able to decipher between what's a legitimate creator trying to spread some news and good and gospel versus somebody who's trying to spread fear. We are in a situation right now where, unfortunately, we'll have to continue to monitor and have these conversations with each other to make sure that we understand what the ramifications are of participating in things like this. There's a very dangerous amount of information online when it comes to social media apps, and unfortunately, it's the human connection still that's the only way to mitigate some of this.
Mohit, it is a complex and complicated world out there when it comes to social media. I really appreciate your insights today. Thanks for your time.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
That's writer and media expert Mohit Rajhans, and he joined us today from Toronto.